His morning looked simple on the outside. Maybe you woke up tired. Maybe you made your bed slowly. Maybe you whispered a prayer that felt weak. But what you don't understand yet is this. Heaven does not measure power by volume. It measures it by sincerity. And something in your heart today shifted the spiritual atmosphere in ways you cannot yet see. While others rushed into their day distracted and disconnected, you paused. Even if it was just for a second, even if it was messy, even if you were doubting while you did it. That pause, that whisper, that decision not to give up echoed beyond walls. It rose beyond ceilings. It moved beyond logic. There are moments in history where a single decision changed everything. Think of how one quiet act of obedience in ancient times redirected entire nations. Your morning held that same energy. A recalibration doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like you choosing peace instead of revenge. Have you ever noticed how small decisions sometimes lead to massive shifts later? A conversation, a yes, a no. What if this morning was that pivot? What if heaven saw something in you that required divine adjustment? If this resonates with you already, pause right here and comment. I feel the shift. And if you're new to Mirror of the Soul, subscribe, because what's unfolding in your life is not random, and you need clarity for what's coming next. God does not panic. He does not scramble. He does not operate in chaos. So when we say heaven recalibrated, understand this, it wasn't emotional reaction. It was divine response to alignment. Alignment happens when your will bends towards something higher. Maybe you forgave someone this morning. Maybe you resisted temptation. Maybe you chose discipline when comfort was calling your name. Those choices create spiritual momentum. Think about a compass. Even if it's slightly off, you'll end up miles away from your intended destination. But the moment it adjusts, your entire journey changes direction. This morning, your internal compass corrected itself. And when alignment happens, heaven adjusts assignments. People who were meant to delay you get removed. Doors that were closed quietly unlock. Protection intensifies in ways you'll never visibly see. Not every yes is loud. Some yeses are whispered through tears. Some are said while hands are shaking. Some are spoken internally when no one else knows you're fighting. What you did this morning was a quiet yes. Yes to growth. Yes to surrender. Yes to trusting when you don't understand. And heaven recognizes the language of surrender more fluently than the language of perfection. History shows us that transformation often begins internally. Before breakthroughs are visible, they are conceived in silence. That silent agreement you made with God today carried more weight than public declarations ever could. You might not feel powerful, you might not feel chosen, but chosen ones rarely do in the beginning. They feel confused, tested, isolated, yet they continue saying yes anyway. If you've ever said yes while scared, type "still saying yes." And if this message feels personal, share it. Someone else woke up this morning feeling small, they need to hear this. There are timelines in the spiritual realm, sequences of cause and effect. When you break a negative cycle, you interrupt more than habit. You interrupt destiny distortion. Maybe your family has a pattern of anger. Maybe your past relationships were full of chaos. Maybe self-sabotage followed you for years. But today, you responded differently. That difference, even if small, disrupted something generational. And when generational chains weaken, heaven shifts its strategy because you proved you're ready for more. Imagine a chessboard. When one piece moves unexpectedly, the entire strategy changes. This morning, you made a move the enemy didn't anticipate. Have you broken a pattern recently, even slightly? Comment. The cycle ends with me. Let this space become a declaration board. This is the part that might shake you. Sometimes delays are protection. Sometimes closed doors are mercy. Sometimes blessings are postponed because preparation isn't complete. But this morning, something matured in you. When maturity appears, heaven accelerates. Plans that were scheduled for years from now can be moved forward. New responsibilities can be assigned. Favor can be released. You didn't just wake up, you leveled up internally. Maybe no one noticed. Maybe the world looked the same, but spiritually, a shift occurred. Think about times in your life when growth happened quietly, and later you realized everything changed after that moment. What if today is one of those days? You might still be wondering, what exactly did I do? And that's the beauty of it. The most powerful spiritual triggers often feel unimpressive in the natural world. Maybe you chose gratitude instead of complaint. Maybe you resisted sending that angry message. Maybe you got out of bed when depression begged you to stay. What seems small to you is massive in the unseen realm. History shows us that revolutions don't always begin with crowds, they begin with conviction. One person deciding to shift internally can create ripple effects beyond imagination. Just like a single stone dropped in water creates expanding circles, your action this morning created spiritual waves. Psychologists often talk about micro-decisions, tiny behavioral choices that compound over time to shape identity. But what they don't always discuss is the spiritual compounding effect. Every time you choose growth over regression, heaven recalculates your trajectory. You may not see angels moving pieces. You may not hear announcements from the sky, but the atmosphere around your destiny adjusted. Protection recalibrated. Assignments were rearranged. Opportunities began aligning toward you quietly. There's something powerful about identity. When you shift how you see yourself, everything changes. And maybe this morning, you stopped seeing yourself as broken and started seeing yourself as becoming. That internal identity shift is not cosmetic. It is foundational. The moment you stop agreeing with labels that limit you, weak, unlucky, unworthy, you disrupt spiritual permissions that were operating around you. Think about it. When a caterpillar begins transforming into a butterfly, its entire biological system reorganizes. It literally dissolves before reforming. Identity transformation is not gentle, it is reconstructive. Perhaps this morning, you internally stepped into a higher version of yourself. And when your identity upgrades, heaven upgrades access. New rooms open. New conversations align. Old attachments fall away. Not because you forced it, but because you outgrew it. Have you noticed something strange? Sometimes right after you make a positive shift, resistance increases. The phone rings with drama, doubt creeps in, old temptations reappear. That's not coincidence, that's confirmation. When heaven recalibrates, opposition reacts. Think about it like this. When you change direction on a highway, you feel resistance from the steering wheel. There's friction because you're redirecting momentum. Your growth this morning triggered friction, but friction is proof of forward movement. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Muscles grow through resistance. Faith strengthens when challenged. Some of you cried this morning, and you thought it was weakness. But emotional release is not collapse, it's cleansing. There's a reason therapists emphasize processing emotions instead of suppressing them. Suppression keeps you spiritually stagnant. Expression creates movement. And heaven responds to authenticity, not performance. If you finally admitted you were tired, if you finally told God you were scared, if you finally stopped pretending you're strong all the time, that honesty shifted something. Vulnerability invites divine reinforcement. Have you noticed how lighter you feel after a real cry, after a real prayer? That lightness is space being created. And when space is created, blessings have somewhere to land. If you release something heavy today, right? I let it go. And if this message feels like it's speaking directly to you, share it. Someone else needs permission to feel. Sometimes what gets canceled isn't a blessing, it's a burden. There are assignments you were never meant to carry forever, roles you outgrew, battles that are no longer yours to fight. And this morning, heaven may have removed something you didn't even know was scheduled. Have you ever had plans fall apart, only to later realize it saved you. Research shows that many successful people experienced major disruptions before breakthroughs. What felt like failure was redirection. Maybe certain people will slowly distance themselves now. Maybe opportunities that once excited you won't feel aligned anymore. That's not loss, that's release. You are not being punished, you are being repositioned. Let me ask you something powerful. What in your life feels like it's quietly ending? Comment it below. Sometimes clarity begins with acknowledgement. And if this is awakening something inside you, subscribe to Mirror of the Soul. Because this isn't just motivation, this is spiritual strategy. Something subtle happened this morning. Fear loosened its grip. Maybe it didn't disappear completely. Maybe your hand still trembled, but you acted anyway. And courage is not the absence of fear, it is movement despite it. That movement triggered acceleration. Think about rockets. They burn the most fuel during liftoff. The greatest resistance happens at the beginning, but once they break through the atmosphere, movement becomes smoother. This morning, you pushed through atmospheric pressure. Fear once delayed your decisions. Fear once made you second-guess your worth. But today, you made a move anyway. That single act sent a signal upward. They're ready. Acceleration doesn't always feel fast at first. Sometimes it feels like clarity. Sometimes it feels like peace. Sometimes it feels like unexpected opportunity appearing out of nowhere. Have you noticed yourself acting braver lately? Comment. Fear doesn't control me anymore, because acceleration responds to boldness. Growth is not just addition, it's subtraction. This morning, perhaps without realizing it, you released an outdated version of yourself, the version that tolerated less, the version that begged for validation, the version that shrank in rooms to make others comfortable. And heaven cannot pour new wine into old containers. When you let go of that smaller identity, space opened for expansion. That's recalibration. Psychologically, identity reconstruction is one of the most powerful shifts a human can make. When you change how you see yourself, your behavior follows. Your boundaries strengthen. Your energy shifts. People respond differently. Spiritually, this is elevation. You don't need to announce it. You don't need applause. The internal release was enough. What version of you are you outgrowing right now? Write it in the comments. Sometimes numbing it makes the transformation permanent. Here's something most people don't understand. Favor doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives disguised as coincidence. A call, a message, a delay that prevents disaster, a random opportunity that feels strangely aligned. When heaven recalibrates, favor begins circulating before you even notice. Think about how often in life you were protected from things you never knew about. Statistics show how many accidents are narrowly avoided daily, but we only hear about the ones that happen. Protection is often silent. This morning, something shifted in your favor. Doors that once resisted may begin to soften. Conversations may unfold differently. And you might not even connect it back to today, but it started here. Be attentive, stay aware, because favor requires perception. If you believe something good is aligning, type, I receive divine favor. Authority isn't loud, it's settled. This morning, when you chose integrity over impulse, discipline over distraction, faith over fear, you stepped into spiritual authority. Authority is not about control over others. It's control over self. When a king understands his position, he doesn't need to shout. When you understand who you are becoming, you don't need constant validation. That calm confidence, that's authority forming. Many people wait for permission to rise, but permission was never external. It was internal acceptance. And today, you accepted something higher about yourself. Let's be honest, this didn't start this morning. You've been in preparation for months, maybe years. The pain, the waiting, the isolation, the lessons that felt repetitive, all of it was shaping capacity. Athletes train in silence before championships. Musicians rehearse before the stage lights turn on. Likewise, your quiet seasons were building spiritual muscle. This morning wasn't random. It was the moment preparation met readiness. That's why heaven recalibrated, because preparation and obedience aligned simultaneously. You thought you were just surviving, but you were actually strengthening. You thought you were delayed, but you were being developed. Look back for a moment. What season prepared you for this shift? Comment your answer. Reflection creates awareness. This morning, something in you aligned with the rhythm of your destiny. It's no longer waiting in the shadows. It's no longer tentative or delayed. When you stepped into obedience, heaven responded by activating assignments meant only for you. Think about your life as a grand story, pages filled with lessons, chapters of waiting, and paragraphs of preparation. Today, a new chapter began, and it will feel different. You may notice synchronicities, doors opening, and unexpected guidance, all subtle confirmations that your purpose is moving forward. Historically, chosen ones always experience a moment when destiny becomes visible. Moses at the burning bush, Joseph in prison hearing God's whisper. Your moment may not have a visible bush or jail, but the energy is the same. The call has come, and the response must be immediate. Emotionally, this is intoxicating. There is an inner clarity that cannot be denied. You can feel it in your chest, in the way thoughts no longer scatter. This clarity is heaven's way of telling you, you are ready for more. When heaven recalibrates, resistance often intensifies. That's because spiritual opposition knows a shift has occurred. You might feel heightened pressure, unexpected confrontations, or subtle sabotage, but none of it can derail what has been ordained. Protection has already been reinforced. Angels, spiritual allies, and divine strategies are now moving in ways you cannot see. The enemy can strategize, but they cannot succeed against alignment. Every negative attempt this morning is neutralized before it even reaches you. Think about David in the battlefield facing giants. The moment he chose faith over fear, victory became inevitable, not because he was stronger, but because alignment triggered divine intervention. Your morning choice mirrors that principle. Emotionally, it may feel unsettling when opposition appears, but recognize the pattern: pressure before promotion, resistance before breakthrough. It's a confirmation, not a curse. Comment, "I am protected and unstoppable." Someone else needs to read that and feel courage. Share your testimony, let your courage ripple through others. Heaven doesn't just recalibrate your path, it recalibrates your circle. People who align with your growth will gravitate toward you. People who resist evolution will drift away. This isn't punishment, it's divine placement. Maybe this morning you felt a subtle release of old attachments, relationships, friendships, or even patterns of interaction. That release was intentional. The universe removes clutter when your space is ready for new energy. Relational realignment ensures that you are not carrying others' unresolved energy. People who stay will amplify your growth. People who leave make room for blessings you cannot yet imagine. Emotionally, this can feel lonely, but solitude is not emptiness. It is sacred space. Embrace it. Reflect on who adds value to your soul and who no longer serves your higher purpose. All preparation, all discipline, all silent surrender, it has led to this. Breakthrough is no longer hypothetical. It is now possible. The momentum initiated this morning ensures that results, clarity, and opportunities are on the horizon. This breakthrough may not arrive as instantly as you imagine. Divine timing often works in layers. Subtle alignment first, visible manifestation next. But the foundation is complete. Heaven has cleared the path, recalibrated energies, and released what was once blocked. Think of breakthroughs like seeds planted in fertile soil. They take time to sprout, but the moment the first shoot emerges, growth accelerates rapidly. Your spiritual soil is ready. Your choices this morning were water and sunlight. Emotionally, hold hope. Rejoice quietly. Celebrate progress internally. Every small victory this morning compounds into monumental transformation. This morning changed more than your life. It changed the trajectory of your influence, your legacy, and your spiritual assignment. Heaven recalibrated because you proved readiness, courage, and alignment. From this point forward, the world will respond differently to you. Opportunities that were impossible will become natural. People who underestimated you will witness your rise. Even the elements of your daily life, career, health, finances, relationships, will subtly rearrange to reflect your new level of resonance. The most powerful part. This is only the beginning. Today was a spark. Tomorrow is acceleration. The spiritual gears are turning. Divine favor, authority, and alignment are now your companions. Comment, "My life will never be the same." Type it boldly. Share it. Let the universe hear your declaration. And if you're not already part of Mirror of the Soul, subscribe, like, and comment. This journey of divine recalibration is just beginning, and you're standing at the forefront.